Okay, so our mission statement is saving lives through the healing power of the human canine bond. And I think one big thing about that is that, our dogs would go to a first responder or a veteran. And the big thing is that it's really helping us too. And so that's something that I know you could relate with, Jaime. That there's been times for me where I've gone through deaths in my family. And, just having, at that point, like I had Gracie here, having Gracie there to really support me. And not even saying anything, but just being there for me. That was huge for me.
Yeah. Last year, well, actually, 2 weeks after my last board hearing in 2018, my dad passed away. A few months later, that's when I got Pauline. That mission statement just says a lot about how, we can find some kind of healing through our dogs. And, there's the support that we get from our dogs is very comforting.
Our dogs are saving our lives too.
Yeah.
Paulina, watch, okay? Yeah! Hey, do you like me? Yeah! Good job!
Thank you, Paulina. Thank you. And so today, Jaime, we're just going to have a conversation where we talk about, our experience in prison and life inside the dog program.
Okay, I was 25 years old when I committed my last crime. What I'm here for is second-degree murder.
And your sentence?
I was given 15 to life sentence and a 3-year enhancement for the gun.
Okay. And then I'm here for 6 attempted murders. It was a gang-related shooting, and I was sentenced originally to 115 to life, and then that was brought down to 21 to life, and now I will be going home in 3 weeks because I was granted parole. And so Jaime, if you can, tell me what was life like out there for you?
Well, actually, growing up, I actually come from a broken home. At a young age, my roof blew off, and from there, my father was someone who was a very selfish, self-centered person. He was someone that only cared about himself. Very abusive to my mother. So me and my older brother, we had to help my mom financially. So we were asked to work in the fields, and so at a young age, that's all I did was work. I worked until I was like 25 years old. Actually, 20 is when I started to notice that all I do is work. I never really had fun as a kid. Got to do fun things like other kids. So for me, it was like, I was very angry and resentful for that. So I got to a point where I just made everything about me. Started drinking, womanizing, got into drugs, started hanging around the wrong crowd, and had poor associations with the wrong crowd. And all those things led to my life crime.
Okay, thank you, Jaime. Sounds like you had a very troubled childhood. And so for myself, I came from a broken home. My parents, they divorced at a very young age. I remember at the age of 5, walking in to see my dad choking out my mother. And this was the type of violence that was common in my household. And it's something that would carry on with me later in life. Pretty much from the age of 12, I was on my own, in and out of foster homes, and on the streets. And at the age of 14, that's when I joined the gang. When I joined the gang, I felt that was like the love and the connection that I was missing, that I was looking for, that I wasn't getting at home. And that was something that I gravitated to. And it's like all I did was just destroy my community, committed a lot of horrendous acts while I was a gang member. How about your prison experience, Jaime? Could you tell us a little bit about your prison experience?
Prison was hard at first. It was kind of scary. I didn't like the politics. You know, you come in, they pretty much make you choose sides. You know, you're gonna pick a side. You know, whether you like to or not, whether you want to be a part of something or not, you're gonna pick a side.
Yeah, I could relate to that. Okay, I could definitely relate to the survival and coming into prison. I just remember like I was 20 years old at the time, and I remember that I had to feel like I had to prove something to everybody, and deep down inside I was really scared. I remember there was a point where there was an older guy that was my cellie, and we were from the same gang on the streets. And I remember him telling me that he felt it was better for me to go ahead and just stab somebody on the yard and go to the hole for it, you know, so that I could pay my respects back there. And that's when it was like really a wake-up call for me. And I realized that what I had gotten myself into and that this is what it was all about. I was very cautious with my prison experience, not knowing who to trust. Walking on edge at a lot of times, a lot of anxiety inside of me, and you know, then missing my family, realizing the horrible mistakes that I made, and knowing that my life had gotten taken away. Because there was a point where I looked at it like I was never going home. I had a sentence of 115 to life. So at that point, I figured I was going to die in prison, and then little by little, hope just started to be instilled inside of me. And I never gave up. Even though I was doing the wrong thing at that time, there was still a little bit of hope inside of me. And little by little, I was able to gradually change and become a better person. And so today, I'm happy to say that I'm not the same man that I once used to be. And it took a lot of work. You know, it took a lot of work for me to really dig down deep inside and figure out what it was that drove me. And a lot of it was that I was wanting attention, wanting love, wanting respect. And I was seeking it in the wrong places. And so today I don't seek for it in the wrong places anymore, and I'm comfortable with who I am today as a person.
Yeah, I can relate to all those things. You know, man, coming in with prison was really scary. And, you know, I understand that. You know, you always want to prove yourself. And, you know, it's like I was afraid to say no, you know, to certain things, certain people, you know. I can relate to all those things. Trying to seek some kind of validation, wanting to fit in. Don't want to be looked at as weak or preyed upon. You know, those are scary times, you know.
Yeah. This big image that you're trying to portray to everybody.
Yeah, it's just, you're just masking the fears. You know, I get all that.
It's the same as how it was out there. No different than coming in here and doing the same thing. You know, and one thing that I did realize was that all this attention, all this validation that I was looking for, it was never good enough. Because I realized that these people never had my best interests at heart to begin with. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I was able to distinguish and come to realize that these people don't love me. And that's something that I was able to pick up on. Yeah. And I'm glad that I'm where I'm at today. So I want to ask you, Jaime, why?
Let me follow up on one thing. You know that when you talked about your little upbringing, you know, something that I wanted to share with you about is that you know, even when our roof blew off and we're moving around, you know, you know, we're always in new neighborhoods and new schools, yeah. And you know, being bullied and picked on. You know, along the way, I learned to use anger and violence to solve my problems. Yes. You know, it became a tool for me to get what I wanted and how I wanted. I even used it to manipulate people along the way. So. And that was something that, you know, I look back and I look at, you know, like you know, my father was someone who like shaped and encouraged a lot of my behavior, whether it was drinking, womanizing, or, you know, he was someone that encouraged violence. And I look back at, you know, my history and I hear all these stories and in some way, you know, there's like a relation between mine and yours, and you know, it's sad, you know, but I still find a lot of comfort that, you know, I wasn't the only one that went through some kind of trauma or bad experiences in life that, you know, I look back, that were life-changing.
Yeah, definitely. And then now I look at it, like I don't want to be a part of that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because for a very long time I was a part of that problem too. I continued that cycle of violence. And so that's something that really, when I look back and I say, okay, how would I want to treat my children, or how would I want to treat my fellow human being, my neighbor, because I know the results of violence, right? So that's something definitely
very shameful.
back on.
Yeah, very shameful. You know, you look back at the way I interacted with people, the way I responded to people. It's like very shameful. It's just, I look at those things, that those are the things that kind of cause me to turn and want to change my behavior. It just is a process.
Yeah, and we're better today. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I want to ask you, Jaime, why the K9s dog program?
Why? Ooh, that's hard. I'm trying not to cry on this one. When I read this thing on when I got here about what these dogs are for, who's ever over post-traumatic stress disorder, you know, the symptoms and stuff like that, and I kind of relate to, like, man, you know, that's something I want to do. I want to get back for all the trauma, all the pain, all the suffering. I want to do something positive rather than something negative. And, excuse me, so I look back at those things and look at the harm and damage that I've caused, not just our family, you know, society, my own immediate family, especially my daughters. I feel like I've ended up, and, you know, like, and it's one of the reasons why I kind of like facilitate a lot of classrooms and, you know, tell my story, you know, how people learn from my poor choices and mistakes, and, you know, if they ever find themselves in the same situations, whereas I would, they'll make a different choice. And the same thing goes for, you know, like, it gives me, like, helping other people kind of give me, or doing things like this kind of give me a sense of meaning and purpose in life. You know, it's like, you know, I feel like it makes me feel better when I'm doing something for other people rather than myself, because there was a time that, you know, I had become real selfish and self-centered, and I made everything about me, and that's what led to all the poor choices I made. And I'm just trying to be selfless than selfish. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why I really do it.
You're doing a good job at it too. I mean, you know, one thing that always stands out to me is I remember Gray, which was Eddie's recipient, which me and you were both a part of,
right?
Eddie's team. And one thing that really stood out to me that Greg said was about the ripple effect, right? And the ripple effect that we used to cause before was all destruction. And we harmed a lot of people in our lives. And to hear Greg talk about how we're not only helping him now, but we're also helping his family, because now he can be present for his family. And so I think that's something that definitely we should both be proud of, that we were a part of that and that we continue to be a part of that. One of the biggest reasons why I joined the program was because I know for a long time I was always told that I was nothing, that I would amount to be nothing, that I would never be good enough. And I didn't believe that. I believed that all those lies. I believed that I would become a gang member, that I would end up in prison. And I lived up to those expectations because that's what I was told. And so for me, a big thing about joining the dog program was to change that narrative and to become a better person and get back and live outside of myself. So it's definitely something that I'm proud of, and I can hope to continue to do this.
Yeah, these programs are life-changing, and I'm very grateful for them. I think my daughters are the ones that I really want to get, you know, reestablish a relationship with. You know, I haven't seen my daughters in like 25 years, and I mean, there's still like a lot of anger, a lot of resentment. I haven't been there for them, you know, it's understandable. But it's, you know, it's hard to build a bond or a relationship when you're here, you know. And I wasn't the perfect dad, you know. I wasn't the perfect person. I didn't always know what to say or how to, you know, get at them. Or talk to them. But, you know, I've learned a lot. And I'm, you know, it's you know, I'm getting pretty good at it. You know, I have grandkids that I want to get very acquainted with, and you know, family that I want to get closer to. So just, you know, stay productive and just continue to find things that I can give back. And I think that way I have more meaning, more purpose in life, and that's just something that I love doing now.
I know just working with you, with Paulina, and being on Team Paulina, I know the dedication that you put in and the hard work, and I believe in your abilities. I believe in you being a good person, and you not having to live in the past. And something that for me that I've been having a little bit of anxiety about is the fact that I'm going to be going home in 3 weeks, and getting to see my family that I haven't seen in years, and learning a whole new experience that I know nothing about, right? It's like, there's a big part of me that just wants to get out there and go full force, but I know I can't do that. I have to really sit back and kind of just let things, you know, work themselves out. I'm very nervous about what's to come. You know, I haven't seen my mother in 20 years. I haven't seen my brother in 20 years. And I think the scariest part about it all is that it seems like they're the same way that they were when I left.
Yeah.
And that's scary for me, because I have to be careful with my relationships that I have out there, and to continue to have boundaries and know what's healthy for me and what's not. So it's something definitely that I'm going to be cautious about, family relationships and just life in general.